Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Brandon Middleton. I'm the founder, visionary, and lead strategist for NOVAEO. So I'm making this video for you to get a better understanding of who we are as a company overall, and then also more details as to what this role is going to really look like, so you can really envision yourself in this role and make sure that it's a perfect fit for you. So, okay, NOVAEO in general is we are a e-commerce based company. We own somewhere around like 10 health and wellness product brands. It's cosmetics, dietary supplements, USDA organic superfoods, tea powders like matcha tea, and we also do over-the-counter drugs, which is basically like acne products. Basically cosmetics, but with additional regulation. And then we have teams all over the world to carry out all of our operations. So our marketing, most of our supply chain, customer service, even our legal support is in different parts of the world. We have about 50 people in total, but we are growing super fast. And so what this role will look like inside the warehouse is, well, honestly, we're in a pretty weird scenario right now. So we had two young junior managers that were basically co-managing the warehouse. One was focused on quality and one was focused on the production. And pretty much at around the same time, both of them had some pretty, well, one was a very beautiful and the other one was a very unfortunate family emergency. And both of them are needing to leave the team with little notice. And so what that does is that gives us a pretty big void in the leadership at the warehouse. Now, what we want to achieve is we need to have strong production leadership and strong quality management, which would be like, quality assurance, but then also compliance, regulatory stuff. Now, we could achieve that by having one super strong general warehouse manager, and then who would then basically promote some of our current warehouse associates that have been around for the past, couple of years and understand the processes, with a little bit of mentorship into each of those, like we'll call them assistant roles, assistant production, assistant quality management. So that is one way that we could build this team. Another way that we could build it is if we had a stronger, so not a junior, but a stronger production and a stronger quality lead, and then we actually probably wouldn't even need a general warehouse manager. That was the structure that we were in the process of building. So you will see some pretty large salary ranges, which everything's negotiable. In our job ads, these pretty wide ranges, and that's why, because basically we want to see who is attracted to us, and to basically, based on all three of these positions that we have job ads out for right now, we're gonna, based on the actual individuals, we're gonna form the perfect structure that makes the most sense based on the experience and skills and interests of the people that apply for each of these job ads. So this actual video is for all three of those roles. So take note that if you would actually like to apply for more than one role, if more than one role applies to you, then just contact us. If you can't find the job ad, well, really you could just contact us, but you might also be able to find all three of the job ads on the platform that you're looking at. All right, so with that said, the warehouse right now has about 6 to 8 typically warehouse associates. So the people that are doing the majority of the actual operational work. But what's really unique about us is because we're so used to having these global teams that are all working remotely because of the various functions like marketing and all of it, we have a special skill set for being able to utilize people that aren't actually at the warehouse to still support the warehouse. So for example, we do have an overarching supply chain lead, and he's in Monterrey, Mexico. He will travel to the warehouse on occasion, but really just kind of like check in. So if we end up with a strong general warehouse manager, then that manager will essentially be more or less on their own. Now, myself and my business partner, so you could think of me as the CEO and the business partner as the COO, we do have a strong kind of like remote presence in everything that goes on in the company. So we will be in communication with each other on more or less a day-to-day basis, or at least week by week. But in terms of actual presence at the warehouse, the warehouse manager will be the top leadership on site. And if, like I said, it's possible that we end up with a really strong production manager and a really strong quality manager, so that we actually don't even need the strong warehouse manager. Or we might end up with someone that is more of like a junior warehouse manager, maybe like a little bit of experience, and a decently strong production manager and a decently strong quality manager. So really, like I said, it just all depends on who is attracted to this. And we need to hire pretty quickly. So we're really casting out a big a net as possible, and seeing what we have to work with. Now, back to the remote teams. So for example, we actually have an industrial engineer in the Philippines who supports the warehouse significantly in a role that we call the operations optimization specialist. So we have cameras around the warehouse, not for like an accountability big brother kind of thing. It's literally, they're on the operations themselves, like in the clean room and wherever we have a manufacturing line. And his job is to look at the data, look at the numbers, rates of speed and all that stuff, and to view the cameras, the actual operation in process, and constantly be trying to optimize the way we do things. So whether we're manufacturing consumable liquids or non-consumable liquids, powders, topical creams, etc., each one has a different line, obviously, and different machinery used and all that stuff. And so he's constantly trying to figure out, okay, how can we rearrange this line? Because we don't have infinite space at the warehouse, so that's a variable that has to get weighed. So he's constantly viewing the data and the cameras to see, okay, is there anything else that we could test out next time around to see if we could do this faster, easier? Is there a way to reduce the number of people in a manufacturing line? And because we're growing so fast, like we are a small team, and we are fantastic at doing a lot with very few people, but we are growing really fast, which means we can constantly be upgrading our machinery as time goes on. Like right now, our most expensive machine is probably, actually to tell you the truth, I don't really know, but I think it's around like $30,000, and most of our machines are around like $5,000. But if you're familiar, machines can get well into the six figures. Now that wouldn't make sense for us to do right now because we do a lot of, smaller batches. Typically the more expensive the machine, the more automated it is, but the longer it takes to like set it up, break it down, clean it and all that stuff. So you wouldn't want to do a run of like 2,000 units with a $100,000 machine. So our optimization operations specialist is in the Philippines watching stuff and is in constant communication with the warehouse team and the supply chain leader to try to figure out what really makes the most sense. What new machines could we get, and what can we change in the process of how we do things, and which individuals are working the best in different roles. Some individuals might be better at manufacturing some specific thing. Some individuals might be better at the order fulfillment. So it's also something else that might be a little bit unique to us, even if you have warehouse manufacturing experience, is because we're in e-commerce, our order fulfillment is primarily stacking up pallets, and then UPS picks it up and brings it to Amazon. But we also have what's called D2C, direct to consumer, where we are picking and packing and stuffing, padded envelopes for a USPS pickup each day. And that's scaling as well. So those are the primary operations. It's the order fulfillment and the manufacturing, but then of course we're doing inventorying there, both of raw materials and finished goods, then receiving and dispatch and all the basic stuff. So let's see. Another remote position that we have supporting is actually our sourcing and procurement person, which also happens to be in the Philippines and also happens to have an engineering background. So the operations optimization specialist is in communication with our sourcing and procurement person. So when we come across new machine ideas, the ops op can be communicating with our S&P lead about what machinery out there even exists, and then start trying to source it from various suppliers around the world. Oftentimes, a lot of it's China. China produces much lower cost machinery, but it tends to break down a lot and stuff like that. So it's always like a little bit of a cost analysis in terms of where we buy our machines from. So in terms of the leadership at the warehouse, in terms of you, this might be a really unique dynamic, and we do want to really ensure that you're going to be a good fit for this dynamic of, even though the team at the warehouse is going to be small. And honestly, I picture us, I've actually owned businesses similar to this in the past that are much, well, got to a point where they're much larger than where we're currently at. So like, I already have the roadmap. I have it written and I have it in here. I'm very confident that we're just going to keep scaling and growing and growing and growing because I've done it before. So even with that, I also have a lot of confidence that even if we were to quadruple the size that we have, I really don't see us needing any more than about 10 people total at the warehouse. Really what we're going to do is we're going to continually scale up our machinery and leverage our machinery in the best way possible, and leverage the ability to have remote support. So people that are not on site, typically in a different country, supporting the warehouse. So basically, we will always have a small team at the warehouse. And I want that because the morale of the warehouse, really the morale of the whole team, but we're speaking specifically about the warehouse right now, is so important to me and to the entire NOVAEO community. And you have the best morale when you have the fewest people there. Plus, what's also really important to me, and this is absolutely positively no bullshit, I'm very sincerely saying this, is that I want every person at the warehouse to be making like a really decent income. And that's why we have to be able to do more with less, because if we have a lot of people there, well, that payroll has to get spread across a lot more people. So we're always trying to improve our systems and improve our technology so that we can keep our payroll, or not keep our payroll minimized. It's more about as we can increase payroll because the business is growing, we have less people to spread that increased payroll around, so that the incomes for everyone, even the most junior person at the warehouse, is much more substantial than what it would otherwise be at another manufacturing business. Does that make sense? So I'm gonna take a quick pause here, make sure I address stuff, and then I'm gonna ask a few questions. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, I am wearing my work uniform right now, all the way down to the underwear. So we are a very, very casual, laid back. We care a lot about getting the job done. You know, we care a lot about our quality, about our numbers, all this stuff, but we don't believe that we have to have like a corporate mask or anything like that in order to do the job. So this is how the remote team operates, and we always want to carry that culture into the warehouse as well. So it's casual, it's friendly, perhaps even jovial, a little bit fun and all that, but we got to get the shit done. And when we get the shit done, we have incentive structures set up so that when we get the shit done, then those incentives trigger. So for example, one of the incentives is that we basically break down our warehouse operations into 10 shifts. Shifts might not be the right word, but basically each day would be a morning and an afternoon, and then Monday through Friday. And so we leave Friday afternoon as nothing scheduled. So if we get finished everything Monday through Friday morning, then what we do Friday afternoons is we either walk across the street to Mission Barbecue and get a bunch of food for everyone, or we haven't done this in a while, but I would like to, is to grill. So someone can run to the grocery store, get a bunch of meat, and just set up the grill and start firing up the grill like around noon. And they're going to be grilling up while everyone's just kind of casually working the Friday afternoon. Once the meat's ready, just everyone kind of start eating and hanging out together and build that bonding, keep that morale high. So we're really big on incentives. We're really big on numbers, hitting targets, stuff like that. But it's all so that we can share in the value that is created. Cool? Okay, the compliance side of the equation is really important, that we bring someone in with experience. So that could either come from the quality manager, or it could actually even come from the production manager or the general warehouse manager. But because we do OTC drugs, so that has a compliance mechanism to it. I mean, really, it all has a compliance mechanism to it. But you know, some of our products are technically foods. This would be some of the sweeteners that we do, like stevia and monk fruit powder and liquids. So we have to follow, CFRs, CGMP, FDA regulations, and then we are also USDA organic. Then we're also starting to spread ourselves into international markets as well. And this won't be on anyone watching this to necessarily learn the regulations of other countries, but we do actually have people right now in the team already, remote people that are starting to learn those regulations so that we can figure out what we need to add to our SOPs so that we fulfill international regulations as well. So we do have to adhere to a lot of different compliance and regulatory stuff. So having someone come in with related experience, now it could be foods, dietary supplements, over-the-counter drugs, cosmetics, although cosmetics have been very loosely regulated and the US is starting to increase regulation on cosmetics. But it could also be like pharmaceuticals, perhaps even like medical devices, I know is heavily regulated. So we really need to have at least one person that has a decent amount of experience with regulatory stuff and following SOPs, strictly, not just themselves, but, having a team that under their leadership following SOPs that are related to compliance agencies, stuff like that. We get inspected by a USA Organic Certifier, typically once per year. We do a third-party FDA audit as well. That's not required. That's just something that we choose to do. We do that through Eurofins. Eventually, we would like to do it through NSF, but they are a lot more expensive, so we're not quite there yet. And then you never know when an FDA person might just pop in the door, so we need to always be prepared and doing things super smooth without any hiccups. But we already have our compliance SOPs and all that stuff written. Now, as we evolve, so will our SOPs. So we are hoping to bring some experience in with SOP writing and SOP following. But again, that could come from any of these three roles that we're currently recruiting for. So if you have that level of experience, then definitely emphasize that in your application, because that's something that not a lot of people have, and it'll definitely make you stand out. And really, the more closely related your experience in general to what we actually do. So, e-commerce tends to be a lot different than a lot of other manufacturing warehouses itself because of we're working closely with Amazon. We have the direct-to-consumer, the D2C arm, plus we also have the B2B arm where we might be sending like some bulk stuff to some other business clients as well. So that tends to be something that's a little bit uniquely different than what most experience is. And then the markets that we serve, the industries that we're in. And I just named all those. So if you have experience in those directly or anything related, really hit that hard. Also, we do have a few people on the team that are Spanish speaking only. Now, it is absolutely positively not a requirement that you speak Spanish, but if you do speak Spanish, that is a plus. It definitely broadens our the pool from which we can recruit from, and we just had really good luck with with the team that we have. So we would really like to just make sure that we can build that friendly or not really build it, to maintain that like friendly community vibe that we have going at the warehouse now. But again, it's absolutely positively not a requirement that you speak Spanish. But if you do, even poquito, then you may as well, you definitely ought to communicate that because it is a plus. Now, that said, we do have people already on the team that are both English and Spanish and can help manage things that way. And then we're actually going to get, technology has improved so much. There's actually devices that you can get, let alone even some of the newer phones out there that you can speak into it and it'll just translate live. So we may as well get one of those, maybe two of those, just to have them. But anyway, yeah, so there can be a little bit of a language barrier for some of the people, and it'd be nice to be able to work through that. All right, in all three of these roles, there is very substantial upward movement potential. So regardless of the three roles, because we're gonna be growing so fast, and in fact, I'd assume that maybe in about 18 months, I would imagine we're probably gonna outgrow our warehouse now, and we're gonna have to probably get something that's like triple the space that we currently have. And we're also, like I mentioned, expanding to other international markets. So we're very likely gonna have to set up a warehouse to send some of our products to in Mexico so that we can service the Latin American markets, which would open up the door to maybe people traveling there and helping to set things up, train teams, stuff like that. Basically, we're growing in multiple directions, and so regardless of the role that you will be applying for right now, there is very significant and honestly pretty fast upward mobility. So If that's something that's really important to you, then feel free to ask about that during your application process, and I'll give you more details about what that could look like based on the skills that I see you have, and then also just communicate what your interests are, and I can really help provide like a clear picture of what that upward trajectory would actually look like for you. Okay, something else that'll be pretty cool. Now this really is only going to apply to the general manager position. The other two positions, we really need to have them on site basically anytime the warehouse is operating. But for the general manager, it's very easy for me to see in the foreseeable future that there can be some remote work that is done. So like work from home time. Now that's not right now because we are growing so fast. We have to like really get our feet underneath of us. But in the future, I could definitely see where, you know, the warehouse manager is not going to have to be there, you know, the entire day, or being able to take days off pretty frequently, that kind of thing, and work from home. So that's definitely there. So I don't want to officially declare this as having remote work because we're not there today, but in the not too distant future, for sure. And how distant in the future really depends on how fast you guys get us there. For the production and the quality, so like I said, those do need to be on site, but we do have a very generous like time off. So because I really do strongly believe that, you know, I don't want anyone getting stagnant, and I like, honestly, personally, I like traveling a lot. I travel the whole world, and it's really done a lot for me. It's done a lot for this. It's done a lot for this. And I want to be able to have a team that can experience that same stuff, at least to some degree. So freedom really is one of the most important things to me in general, in every aspect of the word. So I try to institute freedom in every understanding of the word as much as possible into our structure, into our culture, into our systems. So, something else this is not something that we are actively recruiting for, but something, if this interests you, then this is a little side role that could, regardless of the position, like the position that you're applying to, that is the formulation side of things. So we have multiple brands and, like I said, multiple markets, and we are, like, one of our core competencies on the marketing side is our ability to launch a new product and get it profitable very quickly. So from there, I myself have like 100 new product ideas, and a lot of these ideas doesn't really take that much knowledge and experience in formulation. So for example, we already sell some natural sweetener liquids, which the manufacturing of that basically is, you know, taking a bunch of powder, like say stevia or monk fruit powder, dumping it into purified water, adding some citric acid to enhance flavoring, also a little bit on the preservative side, and then a preservative. We're experimenting with different preservatives all the time, like alcohol and polysorbate and other stuff as well. And so right now I'm wanting to launch multiple specifications of these different powders that go into it. So you can have like kind of like a lower tier stevia, or you can have like a really expensive high tier stevia. And which one you use, it's not necessarily all that obvious, because if you use a lower tier, yes, it's going to cost less like per kilogram on the raw material side, but it's not as sweet. So you're going to add a lot more to it versus the higher spec, which could be it could be as much as like, actually about 10 times more expensive, but you don't need as much. So it doesn't really take a formulation expert to be able to just play around with different stuff and creating different samples, sending it around to the team, sending it around to friends and family, and getting feedback so that we can launch variations of products that we already have. And then there's also, I guess I won't go too deep into it so I can keep this video not super duper long, but there's other formulations projects as well. So if that is an interest to you, then that is definitely something that's on the table. Otherwise, we can always outsource formulation. We actually work very closely with another company that's out of Palm Coast and Ormond Beach on the other coast of Florida that does a lot of our formulations anyway. So it's not something that we absolutely need, but it is an opportunity for someone that might have the interest, that kind of like a little bit of like an artistic mind and the desire to create something. So if that is in your realm, whether you have experience in it or just an interest in it, then make sure you communicate that in your application as well. Okay, I did say I had some questions, but you know what? Instead of having some specific questions, what I would really like to do is just ask you to reply and communicate to us, make us confident that you're the right fit for whatever role that you're applying for. Simple as that. So talk about your experience, your interests, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if you need to ask us more questions to even further understand the role before you are able to communicate that you are the right choice, no problem. Just shoot us emails, whatever you got, and we'll be quite responsive to any questions that you have. But yeah, in general, I would just like to hear back from you and for you to give me confidence that you are the right person for this role. Your interests, your skills, your experience, your personality, your work ethic, all of it. Okay? All right, 25 minutes. Sorry this was kind of long. I appreciate you watching. Take care.